Hi everybody, welcome to the very first episode of the More Life podcast. I'm so excited for this episode. It features two incredible guests, Nick and Paul.
Hey, what's good guys? It's your boy Nicholas Maynard here. Owner of Is a Must, Brisbane's finest streetwear clothing. All I can say is thank you for having me on the show.
Hey guys, my name is Paul. I am a youth worker. I just love helping people. It's always something I've always wanted to do. And it's something that I love to do.
Now I have to tell you guys why I chose you two, because you're probably like, I don't know, you're wondering why I gathered you two here together. So I chose Paul, or I thought Paul would be a good person to bring in here because he's someone who like cares about people, and you can tell when you see him that he's thinking about everyone in a group. And also, have you guys ever had a weighted blanket on you?
Yes.
I feel like when you're in Paul's presence, it's like you have a weighted blanket on you. Like it's just comforting, like settling, that sort of thing. So I feel like you like nice people. I might be wrong, but yeah.
We'll see.
You're like Cap. And then I thought Nick would be a good person as well because something similar, but like more, you're someone who just encourages people a lot. Like if someone says, oh, I have this goal, you're like 100% behind you if it's a good goal. And if it aligns with you and you're like, just like a motivator and like literally like you can wake up and be feeling like, oh yeah, it's a bit of a lazy day, and then you'll go on Instagram, get to your story, and suddenly your whole mood has changed. You're like, yeah, you know what, he's right, I can meet my goals, I can get up. And so I just feel like you're really good people, especially for the first recording, just to be like encouragers, comforters, and really bringing like the More Life vision of having like community and connection.
Yes.
So it's a lot deeper than you thought, I'm sure, but still you're probably like, oh yeah, she just likes us.
Chat.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, our topic today is independence is a myth, which is a statement that I thought of a while ago, and I was sort of deciding or hearing about different thoughts, whether you're someone who likes to be with community and likes people all the time, and a lot of people who eventually can't be alone, like they don't know how to do their own thing. And then on the other side, you have people who don't like people, or they're just always doing their own thing, and a lot of the times they feel like, you know, it's all about me, like I'm just going to do what I have to do. And sometimes it might not be that they don't like people, but they just feel like they don't need them.
True.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that statement?
Well, I think for me, I think we should probably start off by just, you know, kind of putting out what the meanings are. So I think independence is the paradigm of I. Dependence is the paradigm of you. Interdependent is the paradigm of we. And then codependency is the paradigm of whether I need someone or something to complete me.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on, I guess, where you are in terms of your own journey. Like, where do you see yourself? Are you the type of person who's like, well, I just need me, I don't need anyone else? Or are you the type of person that actually starts to think about, well, actually, in order for me to achieve this goal, then I need others. And it's not neglecting who you are as a person. It's not about saying, well, I don't matter. And, kind of like, I would almost say just like, you know, putting yourself down, if anything.
Yeah.
But it's actually realizing that, you know, I've got my own skills and talents, but in order for me to get to the goal that I need, then I need someone who can help me to get to that goal, which therefore is someone who's got the skills and talents who I may not necessarily have, and for you to be comfortable within that. So
True.
You brought the science in. Or English literature.
I was like, man said, into the codependent.
I was like, you lost me there.
Literally. That's insightful. I just learned something just then. I didn't even notice the different links between that.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Independence, if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, independence is a myth.
Independence is a myth. Honestly, I feel like independence, it's dependent on like the situation that you're all in. I think everyone has their own stages of independence that we feel that we, you know, what Paul touched on is the things that you feel like you're strong at, and you don't really need like as much people to help you get to that or achieve that certain goal. That's where you kind of feel, you know, independent in your own way, to be like, okay, I can do this on my own. But then also independence comes in a way of, I think it comes in a way of just thinking about like what your strengths are, knowing what your strengths are. And then, you know, I think but saying independence is a myth, it's weird, like, cause it's like, you know, we all have little moments, but it's like you don't really think of, you know.
It is like a big statement. It's like an overarching statement. And I think it
Yeah.
was more referring to people where they're like, nah, like it's just me. I don't need anyone else.
Yeah.
But also I think you touched on it that like you can have phases. So like for me, for example, I've always been nah, I'm around people all the time. Like I love it. Like this is where it's at. And then there was one year where I was just never alone. Like the only time I was alone was like a 30-minute drive in the morning. And then the end of a 20-minute drive home because I dropped someone home as well. And then I got home as people everywhere. So like there was a time where I was like just people everywhere. And then I think I sort of got to the end and I was like, nah, like I actually don't think I want to be around people anymore. And so like, and that was just a phase where it's like, okay, like all this whole time independence was a myth to me. And then at some point I was like, no, like I just want to be alone. I want to do my own thing. And it might not be independence, but maybe just saying like being around people all the time is, it just wasn't working for me. But that didn't really reflect like, and I hope it didn't reflect when I was with people to be like, oh, I don't want to be with you, because I still like always loved being with people. But then I feel like I've gotten to a stage now where I'm like, I actually really like being alone, like, and I enjoy it. And I still love people, but sometimes I'll even be like, you know what? Nah, I don't want to go to this thing. I just want to do my own thing today.
100%,
So
yeah.
Do you guys ever like think about, because I know you're both social people, what do you think about spending time alone, like with yourself?
I think it's so important. I think you can only fill others to the level of the cup that you're kind of filled within yourself. I feel like, especially for the work that I do, so I'm a youth worker, because you're always giving, and like there's days where it's like you get home and you're just so tired and you're like, oh, I kind of wish that, you know, I just want to take time to myself. But then you think about, oh, I've got church commitments and I've got other things that I need to do. So I think for me, like taking time to just kind of just be with me and actually just refill my own cup and like, you know, do the things that I want to do and not have to feel like I need to go out there and be with others, you know, but actually just making that time almost like a sacred time for myself. Because you can easily get burnt out if you don't, you know, if you don't actually take time for yourself. And I think that's where, you know, it's not about like saying, oh, you know, you should just be by yourself, because that's not healthy, because you do need community. But it's obviously balancing that out and trying to figure out, well, what's enough and what's not enough. Am I too dependent on others where I don't, you know, I'm not dependent enough on myself, and so therefore I'm so reliant on others? Or am I so dependent on myself that I keep telling myself that I don't need others, when in reality you do?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's just, I guess, for myself anyway.
That's hectic. Nah, so true. Like, I could touch on everything you just said, Paul. Like, especially when you talked about, you know, giving from the cup. I feel like in the Bible it talks about we have to give from the overflow. If we're not, if we're constantly giving from our cup, and our cups, you know, we're not giving from the overflow, then we kind of go to that stage where we burn out. And that's literally just means you've given more than you've actually been receiving yourself. And I think that's why, you know, when you find solitude in little moments in the morning or little 30-minute drives when you're driving to, you know, get your little, you know, add into the cup, you can, you know, go forth and foremost, like, into, you know, your community and, you know, be that light for other people, or hang around those people and not feel like you're a burden on them, or they're a burden on you. And I also think it also ties down to, like, also, you know, your family dynamics and how you've grown up as a kid. I feel like if you're someone that's always constantly being around family, a lot of people tend to, as an older age, you tend to kind of step away from family because of, imagine being around so much people all the time. They always want to just escape and be like, I want to be my own. But imagine if roles are reversed, like you're growing up with no one, you've been the only child in your family, and then you grow up, all you want is your community around you. You didn't really have that besides your mum or your dad or whoever you grew up with. So I think it ties down to also how you've grown up as a family, in your family network.
Yeah, definitely.
And then kind of thing like that.
I remember when I was at school in South Africa, I had a friend who was an only child. And like she would just always like, oh, come over. Can I come over now? Can I hang out? And like, whereas I had at the time like 2 brothers and then 3 brothers. So then I was like, bro, I got people over all the time. Like, I don't need this. And it was kind of hard because like obviously we're still like, she was my best friend, but like at the time, like it's just so different where she just wants to be around people all the time, but around me because obviously we're friends. Whereas I was like, like we've been at school together. Like, can I just take a break? You know what I mean? But her, like, going back home for her was a different life to what mine was. But like, I guess it means like you can still sort of like build a connection with people like that. Like we were speaking before with Paul, like before we started recording, about how like I should have gotten someone who's a bit of a recluse like on here, just to give the opposite side of the thing. But maybe like even that recluse might come to you for something every once in a while, and where you would want to be with them all the time, they're happy to just give a little bit, and that can be enough sometimes just to build like a friendship or relationship or whatever it is.
I agree.
Definitely, yeah. I was even just thinking about what you said, Nick. You know, how you mentioned about like even the environment that we're kind of, you know, your upbringing. Because I mean, even if you look at like society now, it's almost like society's gone into this individualistic idea where it's like, oh, you be the best you can be, you know, you do this,
so
you.
true.
It's like, it's all about you, but there's no notion of we. It's like, well, where do we come in it, you know?
Facts.
And you find a lot of people like just, kind of going into their own little bubble and just sticking there. And I guess, you know, the side effects of that is that depressions is on the rise, suicide is on the rise. It's like,
for sure.
It's not good for us to kind of just be stuck and alone, you know, by ourselves, because you get caught up in your mind, and even though you might say you love, you know,
hey, that's so true, man. Literally, it's literally like, Instagram, I feel like is the epitome of like you, because you have your own page to show who you are as a person, and then they base it off your likes on what people like about you, and then if you don't get the amount of likes that you did on another post, you kind of feel bad for yourself. You're like, okay, is this something that I did? And then you can't look at yourself, and then then you look for comparison to see, Ahmed did better than me. Oh, what did he do to change his content? Was it more explicit in terms of what he was showing, or was it more true to being himself? Was he vulnerable? Was he not vulnerable?
Yeah, definitely.
That's so true, Paul.
You're like, nah, we're done here. Like, that's it. He said what needed to be said.
And it's in life too. It's not just in Instagram. It's in business. It's everyone wants to be like. Because everyone's like, okay, you know, it's all about me now. I have to show my journey. You have to show your journey. If you want to be the owner of a brand, you have to show you being the face of it. And sometimes you don't want to be the face, but for you to drive your message, you have to be the person. And it's not true, though.
Sure,
it's so not true.
I remember speaking to someone who was like, they had, I don't want to say this because I don't want them to be tracked down, but like they had their profession, which is like just something separate or whatever. And then they were like, oh yeah, like, can you help me take Instagram photos of like just me like out in the park doing like random stuff that wasn't related to what they were doing? And I was like, oh, like, don't you want like I don't know, a picture of you like doing what you do? And she was like, oh, like I would, but I guess for me to have followers to then buy into my business, I need to post certain things and I need to look a certain way, and then I can get people buying into the message and then deliver that. Which was an interesting thought, because I've always, like, for me personally, I think probably when I first got social media, like grade 7, 8, I was definitely sort of like, oh yeah, but this person has these likes and they're posting this. But after that, like from grade 10, 11 onwards, I was like I've always been like trying to give like what's very real about me. And like it's sometimes challenging, and sometimes I'll look back at stuff and be like, oh yeah, like I might delete this or that sort of thing. But most of the time, like I've just sort of tried to post who I am, even if it's sometimes who I am is different to what other people think, and that's where it gets challenging, where someone might come to me and be like, oh, that's not very like you, and I'm like, oh, like it is like me, you just don't know me.
I feel like that's the most triggering thing that anyone can say to someone. It's like, oh, I didn't know you'd do that. You're like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Man.
Because then you start going back and you're like, oh, have I?
Yeah, and then you start questioning yourself. You're like, oh, like is my impression this? And like, but when you touched on how society's become like very individualistic, do you think it's also like where we live? Do you think it's different? So back home for me is Zimbabwe, and I know there's definitely that. I guess being in the diaspora as well, the big thing is we don't have a lot of our extended family around. So you do have, like, you know, back home, your aunties and uncles are around. You have everybody around. Like kids can stay at everyone's houses, and you've got support around. So it's hard to be individualistic when you're always around people. Whereas here, when you're removed from family and in some cases separated from the culture and what it really is, that's where you get that idea of like Ubuntu and family and taking a village. That's taken away. Do you think our location has something to do with being individualistic, or not really?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think so. I think, I mean, if you look at, you know, I was born in South Sudan, raised in Kenya. I mean, if you look at even just Africa as a continent, there's a proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that idea is that the responsibility of, or the upbringing of a child isn't just reliant on the parents, but it's the reliance on the community. It's reliance on aunties and uncles. It's your neighbors. It's your,
So true.
whoever's walking down the street that sees you and knows your family.
Keeping you in line.
Yeah, keeping you in line. Exactly. And you're so afraid of doing something out there in public because you're like, oh, not only am I going to get a beating by that person, but
Yeah.
my parents, when they
all
find
know,
out,
bro.
they're going to beat me up as well. So it's like, but I think the beautiful thing about that is that like that responsibility is shared equally.
Yeah.
And so therefore you're learning bits and pieces. Like you might have an auntie who might be telling you stories of like your upbringing and how your parents were, this and that. So I think it doesn't just fall on like, it doesn't just fall on the parents, but I think, when you look at the Western society, it's almost completely the opposite, where it's like, families are kind of, stuck among themselves, and it's like, you build your own future, and, parents, teenagers get to a certain age, and it's like, no, you move out and go do your own thing, where it's like back home, it's like, no, you bring your wife and you guys come and live in the same house.
Live in the same
Could never
house.
be me.
That's so
Could never
true.
be me. Yeah, I feel like you touched on something very briefly, like that idea of like you learn from an auntie one thing and you learn from this person something else. I feel like that's a big thing for me with community, is that you just think things differently. Like when I guess during my teenage years, I was always in like one main community. Like everyone sort of knew each other. Like you all went to the same 4 different churches, like that sort of thing.
Right.
And like you all, like it was a
Same
Christian
shops.
school and that sort of thing. Literally the same shops, like same football club, like everything was the same. And then I think as I've gotten older, and I remember going to uni, so like my school was a Christian school, and it's like one thing that they teach a lot is like chivalry. So like before classes, you'd always have like the girls line up in one line, the boys line up in the other, and the girls would go in first and choose their seats, and then the boys come in afterwards.
Bro.
And like
Go to my school.
My school's like, you get a seat, you get a seat.
Literally.
Yeah.
You don't? It's too bad.
Fight for it.
So true.
And like even like going, I remember on camps, like I think it's also just like we're just really nice guys in our grade, but like I remember like going on, I had my school bag and a guitar in one hand, and then this guy was like, oh, let me take this, and another one's like, oh, let me take this for you, and then like help me on the bus, like that sort of thing. But it was very like normal. And I remember going to uni for the first time, obviously like not really like a specifically Christian environment, and like the lecture doors opened for our first lecture, and I like walked forward, and this guy barged in front of me, and I was like, now hold on a minute. Like, I was like, you do know I'm a girl, right? But yeah, I think that was just fascinating, being like, oh, okay, like
The real world.
the like people act differently, and then from there, like since then, it's just been in so many different ways. Just seeing the different ways that people think and the different ways that people or different experiences people have had, and then that has also taught me a lot as well.
Yeah, facts.
Mm.
Facts. That's crazy.
Yes.
I just thought the idea because I feel it's very, very important, and we've touched on a lot about our past in terms of everyone's family dynamics and how how we all grew up in different settings and how it's dictated where we are now. But then where do we see the future headed for, like where do we see our future heading kind of in that sphere?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like one of the things that I've noticed is just how open some people are and nice they are, because I think there's this idea that you mentioned our society is individualistic and that sort of thing, but I've just like so many times I've just seen like just how loving people are, like just because I shop on Facebook Marketplace occasionally, like if I'm getting big things, so I'll go in there. Really, it's a good place to go. If you like, if you trust it. I saw someone selling eggs.
Hey?
I saw someone selling eggs. They're like,
Eggs
oh yeah,
on
I got
Facebook
it on Facebook Marketplace. So like you obviously have to check what you're getting, and like I always do a background check. But I like every time I've gone, like people are just so open, and like I bought like some of these mics from Facebook Marketplace, and like just going there, the person was like, oh, what do you like? What do you need the mics for? And I'm like, oh, I have a podcast that I'm starting, and like we talked for a long time. Like he's like now following the podcast, and he has a podcast as well, so I'm following that, and then like sort of keeping up with what's happening. And so like every time I've like just gone to buy something, you have a conversation like, oh, what's this for? Like people are just very open. And this is like random, but like last week I went to buy a meat pie at a bakery, and the guy gave me another meat pie.
Then another bakery.
The bakery.
Wow.
I know.
You got a bakery.
But yeah, like, and he was just like very lovely and that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, do you have any forks? And he's like, oh, no, I don't. But like the restaurant down there, like they're very nice. Like you can ask them for whatever. So I went down there, and the guy was like really lovely as well. Like, and there's just like the whole day. Maybe it was just like my energy that day or something, and then walked past someone, they was like very smiley, like this guy let me like walk in the crosswalk first, and I don't know, just like seeing how lovely people were and like how open they were. I was like, nah, like I know like there's this impression that we're individualistic and that sort of thing, but actually when you look at people day to day, like people are just so like lovely and open.
100%. Yeah, I think within the core of each human being, I think there's just a kind side to them. I think obviously their upbringing, as Nick mentioned earlier, and just the environment kind of changes that. But I think generally, I think people actually do care about others and do actually want to get to know other people. Obviously, you know, from a young age, maybe if things happen in your life, you obviously become more guarded and more closed off, and that plays a huge role. But I think generally, I think people do actually want to get to know each other. And I think if anything coronavirus really taught us is that we need others.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, being isolated in 14 days or like 7 days or whatever. Yeah, like it was so unhealthy. Like people did struggle to just be by themselves. So it actually made them realize that, hey, I need relationship. I need people. I genuinely do need people. So.
And I think you touched on something very well as well. I think you're talking about how the kind-heartedness of people that day for you was really good, but I'm very much a person that thinks that you are what you attract. So if you're someone that's constantly beaming with joy, that's why it's very, very important that if you do feel like you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, that you can change that within the morning before you go meet other people first.
Yeah, for sure.
Because sometimes your energy that you may not be thinking is energy, you could just rub it on to someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could rub on to someone else. You never know. That guy who gave you that extra meat pie, you could have a really nice client come by, or something happened to him, and someone was able to help him, so he passed on a blessing to you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Because even in like, you know, being a Christian, but like, I love in the Bible when it says that as a man thinks, so is he. Like the idea that like, yeah, exactly as you mentioned, Nick, like whatever you are thinking of who you are as a person is the same energy that you're going to give out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's almost sometimes I feel like we need to, I don't know, like for me, sometimes because I'm always around people, like I'm always so conscious of like, okay, you know, if I say something, oh, how's this person going to take it? Like, and it's not about, maybe there is a side of it where it's like, oh, me being in my thoughts.
Yeah.
But then there's another side of it where it's like, I don't want to, you know, that person could be having a horrible day.
Yeah.
And like the last thing I want to do is to be more of a burden to them rather than just
sure.
be a joyful or nice person to them. So.
Yeah. I feel like a smile also makes a difference. Like when you're talking about what energy you radiate and how you could be the key to changing like their outlook or how they feel or everything. Like working in healthcare for us, like it's always like a thing because I'm a physio, so and I worked in hospital and in community as well now. But your smile just makes such a big difference to how a patient sees you. And so like you'll walk into a room, like, you know, someone's just had surgery and you're asking them to get up for the first time. Like if you come in being like, oh yeah, like we're going to get up now. Yeah, who knows what could go wrong, like that sort of thing. Like it's different. Whereas if you come in, you're like, oh hey, like I'm your physio, like I'm so excited to get you up. Like, you know, I looked at everything, you're looking good, like we can do this. It makes such a big difference, just that energy. And it was so hard like with masks on. Because then you couldn't have it. I could try it with your eyes, but like it was just so different. And sometimes like there was some people where you had to like step back and be like, hi, how are you? Like just because you knew like the smile would just make such a big difference. Like if they're already nervous or everything like that.
That's so true.
But yeah,
definitely. I like every time I go into your Insta, Nick, like I love that there's always a footage of you like smiling, and like it's really good on you, but it gets me smiling at the same time because I'm like,
exactly, that's it. No, it's true. Even like I found with wearing masks, even though like I liked being in my own little bubble, like doing my thing, but it did separate me from people. I don't know if you found that, but like when I used to go to the shops and just smile at whoever, like strike up a conversation while getting stuff. But with masks, it just felt like you were separate. You didn't know who they were. I'm not saying don't wear your mask. Definitely wear your mask.
Same thing. I think even working at JD Sports, when they're doing that mask period as well, like it was such, such a good point. It's not just in healthcare, but I feel like it's just in general as well. Like even working at JD, you kind of felt like you're a burden. Like no one could really tell how you actually feel, how you wanted to be open with them when your face was like this.
Yeah.
When you actually like open and they're like, oh, what the heck? I can actually talk to this person.
Yeah, for sure. So, and you try to squint with your eyes, but
I know, right?
then you end up just being like,
I feel like I'm having a conversation with my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like there's so much that you can dig into when it comes to independence. What do you think about the idea of a me year? Because not gonna lie, I saw that on Instagram where they're like, this is a me year, and I felt it. I was like, you're right, a me year, like a year where like you're just gonna take care of yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what I thought you said too. I was like,
I know. What's that? When I was saying it to myself, I was like, that doesn't sound like anything. But like a year where it's like, look, I'm actually gonna invest in myself a little bit more, like try to work on my goals. Like, yes, you know, along the way you're still with community, you're still, you know, taking care of people who you need to take care of, but you can dedicate some time to building yourself up and meeting your own goals. I know you guys are people who find your goals important, whether it's physical goals of I'm trying to get this or I'm trying to be more like this. Do you think it's worth having time that you dedicate to your goals, whether or not it involves other people?
I think it's definitely very, very important to, you know, because at the end of the day, you have to think about, obviously, who you are without your goals and who you are with your goals. And then once you understand that and you know that if your goals are aligning with who you are, then essentially you're, like right now I'm working on my goals right now, which is understanding how to be more comfortable with myself around other people without having the thought of thinking, okay, I'm going to say something wrong. You know? And I think once we're able to be, you know, understand our goals of ourselves for me year this year, then we can actually be able to go through it like this right now. Like I'm having my goal right now. You know,
sure.
Even though it's a me year, I'm still doing with other people.
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. And I think because, like, yeah, as you mentioned, like even with your goals, you know, come they align with your values, and it's like, well, if you've got goals that you want to be, I don't know, you want to be successful in the next 5 years, well, you're not going to be sitting in your room 24/7 doing nothing. Facts. You know. So if that's where you see yourself, then you are going to need to take time, and you are going to need to prioritize and, you know, find time for yourself to be able to focus on those goals, and find time as well to be with others at the same time. Yeah. Because in order to achieve those goals, you're going to need others along those journeys. Yeah. I mean, even if you look at the most successful people in society, like all of them had, whether it's other investors or it's, you know, it's people on the side that supported them. I mean, Nick, you've got a pretty successful brand, and it's like, you know.
Yes, so we gonna plug it?
Yeah, it's a must. It's a must. I feel that though. It's so true. Like, and like what you said is, it's like I don't know what's the saying that it doesn't take. Same thing. Coming back onto the village, it takes a whole village to build.
To raise a child.
The same thing with like even the business too. It's not about you and your business. It's about who you impact, who support you day in, day out, your village, your community around you. So I feel like it's something that we take into everything in life. Like, and
your network is your net worth, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think it's like who's inputting in you and who you are putting to.
Yeah.
Because you need someone that's pouring into you, so that therefore you're able to pour into others.
For sure.
There was a point that you touched on that I was just really fascinated about, and you mentioned the idea of you know, it's like when you're starting a business, and I think a lot of people know who you are. They know, you know, you post a lot of things of, you know, the things that you do, but I think people only see just glimpses of it. They don't really see the struggle or like the behind the scenes stuff. And I guess, was there ever moments in there where it's like, you know, where you thought, oh man, I could just do this myself, I don't need to rely on anyone else, or so
I think the only, it started off with the idea when I did come back. I was like thinking, because I went to Singapore for uni, for this like uni exchange program, and it gave me some drive just to come back and be like, okay, you know, let's make this happen. But the common issue I found in Brisbane was the lack of manufacturers that could actually, you know, do what I need to, you know, to be able to do what I need to do. And I didn't really know much people that knew. So I was like, okay, what's the next best thing that I can do? If I can't find anyone, and I was trying to figure out, okay, if I can't find anyone in Australia, do I go overseas? And I try to go overseas, the hardest thing was talking with manufacturers overseas, because they can't see your vision that you have for it. And so you're trying to tell them what you're trying to do and ask them if they can do it, and they're like, oh no, sorry, we can do it, but the wait's gonna be like nearly 40 days because we have like so much other stuff we have to do, and your quantity is not as high. Majority of them were looking at, you need to have 3,000 pieces, like a minimum quantity to get out of them here. I was like, I'm just starting my brand. I don't even know if this one's gonna even succeed. So the best way I thought was like, okay, let me just put it in my own hands and bought a press, bought a vinyl cutter, and literally just watched YouTube videos for like a week straight. And then I started on my friend Frenton. Actually started off with one of these kids in youth named Frenton. I burned his t-shirts. I didn't, because this before I had the press. I had an ironing board, I had an ironing thing, and I thought you could just do it with an iron. So I was like, okay. I burnt all his t-shirts. Had to buy some t-shirts. I appreciate you, Frenton. But as I got better and learning how to, look at the specs of like how to press and everything, and then I realized, okay, I'm getting better at this. I can maybe try and help others, and if they don't need any shirts done, I started asking around my community, and then there was a couple of teams that needed some things done. I was like, okay, this is another challenge for me. If I can get this going, that's mad. And then one thing I found was a bit annoying was let's say you have like a lot of customers coming through, they have all the different specific needs of what they wanted, and I was like, man, if there was a one way I could make this easier, just to have it one way how I can do it my style this way, I would do it. And then that's the idea of, okay, why don't we start a brand? Because when you start a brand, you literally know everything that's going to come out because you're the one that's replicating it, replicating the same thing. You're not bringing out different design, different colors for the your customers that you're doing it for. And then I think it has its pros and cons, and a con being the brand did so well. I didn't know the traction was going to be that in the period, which is why the period I'm coming off now, because I literally didn't touch my press for I stopped pressing from October last year because till now, because I was burnt out in the season. So I think learning from that, it's good to just do things with what you can by yourself, but you definitely need a team, which is why I got burnt out, because we did like 1,000 orders. I mean, 1,000 orders within that time, and that was all came from me just pressing it. I think I did for during one of the craziest periods we did. I think we were doing nearly $1,000 a day. We had I think we turned over 7,000 in 1 week, and it was just getting to a stage where it was just backlog, and by the time,
you still had your own other commitments as well.
And other commitments, work. Mickey, I literally asked Mickey to come help, but she could only come certain days. So literally just me in my room, 7 a.m. in the morning, 7 a.m. to around 11 o'clock at night, just every day for maybe 2 months straight. And then I was just like, nah, I can't do this. And I took a break, but the orders still kept coming in. And so it got to a point where we're nearly 400 orders backlogged, and I was the one that could only do it. And it's not like I could just take it to manufacturing and say, hey, can you do all these ones? It's kind of, customers are waiting for their orders. And in this way, I kind of think creatively. And that was that time when everyone was using the pandemic as a situation. So I'll be like, hey, orders due to pandemic.
You know how it is, isolation. But, thank God we're alive, and that's all we can ask for.
So most of my excuses for customers are, hey, sorry, due to delays of COVID, our shipping times will be a bit longer. When I hadn't even got to so I'm telling you, man, in business, when you have to try, you have to be something else. But it really, really taught me the importance of making sure you have a right structure in place before this stuff happens.
And I think that's where I don't know what setup you have behind the scenes, but even just looking at you have models who have modeled the brand, you need people for that. If you have friends, oftentimes they I know I'm someone where I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't charge you. I'll just come put the shirt on me, I'll do what I need to do. Or even someone who might be like, oh yeah, I'll go to the post office for you. That's little stuff, people who you can trust to do things for you. Unless, and this is something else that I used to struggle with and sometimes do, is sometimes you just want to be asking for help also, but also just wanting to have your hands on it. You're like, but what if they forget, or they bypass the post office?
Exactly.
Or, but only I can model it right, so let me do it. You know what I mean? Did you ever struggle with trying to get your hands off it?
All the time. And I think that's That's so true. Like, I feel like that's not. I feel like that's with everything that you care about the most. I think it's not just with business. I think it's with anything in life. Like, once you realize something, like you cherish it as much like as you cherish a baby. It's like when you put it out to someone, there's always that little bit of, are they actually gonna do it to the way that I want it?
Yeah.
You know, I can do it this way, but are they gonna be able to be as open as I am? You know, and so it kind of, it's like you're putting your fate, your trust into the, I don't know, into the unknown. Yeah, the unknown, and that's the scariest bit. But definitely, you have to get past that if you want to do definitely business. You have to get past that, because everyone wants to be part of it. If people want to be a part of it, they'll be a part of it. But you have to allow them to shine their light through it as well. And I think the coolest thing about having a brand is when other people talk about it in their own way.
Yeah,
not just you talking about it. I think where you hit the nail on the head is when you can go out and people start talking about not just your brand, but talking about how it's impacted you to be a better person.
Yeah, for sure.
For yourself and for other people. That's when I'm like the most happiest.
Oh, that's very good.
That's so good.
Yeah. Wow,
all good stuff.
Yeah.
That's really good. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast, guys. Yes. I feel like there's obviously so much more we can talk about. Usually what happens is I'll like turn off the recording and be like, oh yeah, and this, and then come back. But like, yeah, it's a lot to talk about, but I feel like you two are really like just good people to bring your thoughts and everything like that. But yeah, if people want to keep up with you and know what you're doing, if you want them to, I guess, follow you or your work, you can plug your Instagram, anything you'd like.
All I can say is, first and foremost, I want to thank Gugu for having us here. It's been such an honor. Everyone who's listening right now, I hope you guys stay tuned to more of Gugu as she grows into this sphere. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Me and Paul are very, very grateful. I mean, Paul can touch on himself, but I just want to say it's very, very important. I feel like in this new age where we do bring that visual or video representation as well as audio representation to people, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all want to be around community, and I feel like the community that's going to grow through More Life podcast is going to be something that is really, really cool to see in the future.
Thank you so much for that.
Definitely, yeah. And even just to add on to that, I also applaud you for taking the steps that you have to do what you're doing now, and to even just all your listeners. I think they would know you well enough to know that you don't just speak of the things that you speak about, you actually live it out, and you are generally like one of the nicest people that I've ever met. And you go out there and you're constantly enlightening others with your presence and with all the joy that you always bring and your laughter, and it's refreshing. But yeah, back to your question, you can find me on Instagram, Paul_Laku, not Lukaku. But
that was shade. That was actual shade.
And if you're wondering about me, my name is Nicholas Maynard. You can follow my ad as Nicholas Maynard with the Z at the end. Or you can follow my brand, Isamas Clothing Brand. It's pretty much
new
a brand.
Job coming out soon.
Yeah, new job coming out soon. All I can say is we're a brand that stands up for those who can't stand for themselves. We're about empowering our community around us, bringing positivity, bringing a new light into the sphere of everything to do with clothing and streetwear. And thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you so much. Before we finish off though, what does More Life mean to you? When you hear More Life, what do you think of?
I just think of the word abundance. I think of there's just so much that, well, I'm just put it out there. I feel like there's so much that God has for you, and I feel like there's so much that He wants to, kind of pull out of you. And so when I think of More Life, I think of this idea of like a tree growing, and as you kind of get to know yourself, you grow different skills, different talents, different. You start to know more about yourself, and you find people who actually, I guess, can refresh you and can fill you up, and that's what I think. Yeah,
that's really good. Love it.
That's hectic. I was thinking the same. I mean, no, abundance is true, so true. I was thinking about, more life is more experience. Like I was thinking, pretty much what Paul was touching on, the tree of opening up. But I think the more experience you feel, the more experiences you go through, the more life you get to be a part of, and the different feelings you get to feel. And I think More Life podcast is something that I feel like the more we hop on this journey with you, the more we get to know about ourselves, or more that we didn't know about ourselves. For
sure. All right, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, for sure. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to episode 1 of the More Life podcast. Don't forget to share your thoughts and your perspectives on Instagram at morelife.podcast. You can find us in the comments for each of the episodes to tell us what you think.